Welcome to the Free Mind podcast. Today I'm here with Kris, Wood, also known as the Brand. Um, the first question is, what is brand strategy and why is it important to have a brand strategy?
For me, brand strategy is what you need to do to hit your purpose. It's a roadmap for your brand, and it defines what the brand stands for. So its purpose, the emotions that you want to evoke, and how it positions itself in the market. So that's who the market is as well. It's crucial because it should guide all businesses' decisions. Your marketing efforts, your communications, who the customer is, who you're targeting, and it should, in the end, give you the plan for all the tactics that you need to do, such as visual identity, marketing plans, things like that. So it should create consistency and help build a strong, recognizable brand that resonates with its target audience. And again, for me, brand, I think it's Marty Neumeier said, brand isn't what you say it is, it's what they say it is. So you can try to create a brand strategy, you can create brand identity, but a brand is created by consumers and customers.
I think a good example of that was a Diary of a CEO episode where it had Greg Hoffman and he went on about how a brand's like a picture frame and the stories the kind of picture of the brand.
Right. Yeah, I've not seen that one, but like I say, it's kind of the whole strategy is it's everything that comes before getting into doing the work for a client or for yourself, depending on what you're building.
So what is the difference between a brand identity design and a brand strategist?
Really, it's the prime difference would be in the scope and focus of what they do. I'll do it back to front, but a brand identity designer concentrates on the visual aspect of the brand, so that's your logo, your color scheme, typography, and other aesthetic elements. Very much should be driven by what comes out from the brand strategy. So the brand strategist thinks more broadly. They'll consider the market, who the audience is, or as I like to call it, the tribe, what resonates with them. So that's your brand values, your personality, market size, competitors, everything else that's going on in the background before you even start to look at the visual identity side of things should be done by the brand strategist. In fact, it should always work together if they can. So it's right down to how the messaging and the customer experience, it's the planning of all of that first, and then the visual identity designer takes what comes out of that report or plan and builds the visual response around that.
So I'm guessing as well, sometimes you have to kind of have both. So if you're a brand identity design, you have to also know some strategy to be able to help with your design.
Yeah, well, there is a lot of designers out there who don't in their early careers, and I was like that when I first started. I would create logos, advert designs, brochures, purely from a visual point of view and from the feedback I got from the customer, my customer at the time. But I would never ask more deeper than what they liked and what they wanted. It wasn't until I started learning brand strategy that I realized it's not actually about them. You're not trying to, while you do have to please them and get their sign off, it's actually you're designing for their customers, and your design should resolve their customers' problems. And that's when brand strategy comes in, because it's the questions that you ask in brand strategy that would start to dive into that and pick those little elements out, which you could then go, right, well, actually, X is the problem, so my design should reflect Y. So it is a case of good designers will naturally do it. Some will learn a bit of brand strategy. For me, the two should go hand in hand, and I think that does come with time and experience.
So what is your favorite part of creating a brand strategy or coming up with a strategy?
For me, it's definitely the discovery phase.
Uh,
The initial kickoff meetings where I get to dig deep into the company story, find out what their why is, why they do what they do, beyond earning money, which is obviously a main thing for a lot of people. But it's what's their bigger purpose, from what is the MD or CEO, the owner, or whoever the person is who's right at the top. Why are they doing it beyond earning a wage and employing people? What's their deep-seated reason behind what they do? Right through to who their customers are, what makes their brand unique. When you uncover things like that, which people sometimes don't even realize what their own unique selling point is. It can be quite an eye-opening session, that first session. I've had customers having real difficulty with it because it can be uncomfortable when you start asking big questions, which they initially can't answer and they think they can. And then you ask the next level deeper, but why, but why, but why? And like I say, it can get uncomfortable, but at the end of it, what you get out from that initial discovery session is enlightenment. The client can really get to understand themselves sometimes, what they are really about and why they're doing it. But then also, as long as the right people are in the room during that session, it can also help bring people together. I had one session a couple of months ago where there was 4 decision makers in the business. They all had different parts within it, from sales to technical director to marketing and things like that. And they all had different opinions, which they didn't realize to begin with, but they all had different opinions on what they did and why they did it. And I wouldn't say it got heated, but emotions were running high at the time, because everybody needed to talk through their viewpoint. But which was great at the end of it was that everybody was then aligned, and the discovery phase can really help align the key stakeholders within a business. And at the end of that first session, before I've even then created a plan that embodies the brand's essence or strategy, it gets everybody on the same page. And like I said a few seconds ago, it can be eye-opening for the people in that room. And I just love that phase when you see moments of realization.
Yeah. I think I've had it before where sometimes you're not on the same page and it kind of, then you have to think what is not quite right. And
Yeah, it is that it's discovering what the deeper issue they've got is. So if
yeah,
like I said, somebody comes and goes, I need a new website, and say, right, you've got a website, why do you need a new one?
yeah,
We just think it's a bit dated. And say, well, yeah, but if you go deeper, what is it? Oh, well, and then somebody else in the room might pipe up and say, well, we're getting a lot of people coming through, a lot of traffic, but we're not getting any conversions. Nobody's getting in touch.
yeah,
And then you go, right, so is it the website that needs refreshed, or is it your messaging isn't right? Do you not have the right call to actions?
yeah,
Are you simply not outlining who your target audience is right at the start? So people are coming on the website and going, well, what's this about? Is this for me? Instead of going on the first page, we help these people with this problem by doing it this way. And so like I said, if you're not on the same page, then it can be difficult. But by asking the right questions, you can get everybody on the right page. I've also actually had discovery sessions where at the end of it, I felt it hasn't, the client hasn't aligned with my purpose and
yeah,
my values. Um, and it's taken a long time because I used to just say yes to every job that came along would be like yes, yes. I now changed my vision and my mission to be I want to work when I want,
yeah,
from wherever I want, with whom I want,
yeah,
and that's kind of whenever I go into a new business and at the end of it it's kind of right. Well, yep, they don't want me to go and work from their office. They're not forcing me to work from a set place. They allowing me to do this in my time as long as I hit deadlines and we agree those deadlines. But I can set the parameters there as well with them. And also these guys seem like people I want to work with. It's only now that at the end of some of them I go, well, actually, I don't feel I'd bring out the best in you guys because for whatever reasons happening, I just can't see us aligning here.
yeah,
And then I won't just leave them thinking I will give them a couple of numbers or emails of people who I think would suit them.
yeah,
Because I always want to help something. I don't want to just leave and they go, right,
yeah,
that was an hour wasted or however long. It is a case of
yeah,
I'll always try to solve some problem.
yeah. I think that is one of the things is when you're starting off as a student, always do as much things as you can and then kind of just say yes to opportunities and try.
Yeah, that's it. And I learned my lesson fair well during a period when I ran a print company as well
Yeah,
to complement the agency, and we're getting people in who wanting a business card, for instance, and then just wouldn't sign off on the design. And my designers were churning out great
yeah,
work, but because they were only paying X amount for a quick business card, we didn't have the time to delve deeply.
yeah,
And it was a case of a £50 job was taken a day, and it was like, well, we've just lost money big style today on that one. Um, and it was kind of right, well, how do we resolve this? And it was all about putting contracts in place and things like that, which when we started getting clients that didn't see the value, it was kind of right, we need to reevaluate this and got rid of the print company in the end, sold that off because the value for us were more high ticket jobs where the more people pay we found, the more value they placed against what they were doing and they were willing to put more into it and answer the questions that were needed to be asked. They weren't after something that took 10 minutes and expected to pay pennies for it. So it is a case of you do learn later in your career that sometimes saying no is better for you.
yeah,
That's not to say no, like say if you need the money through the door
yeah,
and you know you can do something quickly, then yes, by all means, to start your career. A lot of people will say yes. And again, I did the same.
yeah. Because normally it's just working on what you can, and sometimes it's just you may not get paid for it. You may just end up doing it for free.
Yeah, that's it. If you in your early years when you're trying to build and find your feet, build a portfolio. I used to do it. I did quite a few like prospective jobs, and a few self-imposed projects, and it was good because it keep as a creative, you've got to stay creative. And I think the one thing if you stop, if there's a drop in work or whatever, and you don't stick at it, you can then hit a creative funk and be a bit like, oh, and get stuck. So by all means, do what you can to keep your creativity up, but also know when to say no to the wrong jobs, even if the money is there.
What are your thoughts on AI? Kind of as
I'm quite torn with it, really. Because yes, on one side you have got the scaremongering that's out there, the Cyberdyne systems from the Terminator film, and all of these things. Which are we opening Pandora's box with it? Will we be able to close it again? Will it take all of the jobs from various industries one by one, which can cause concern, but it's also a fantastic opportunity. I mean, jobs have always been taken by something else, years and years and years, from machinery during the Industrial Revolution, to computers. Computers wiped out people's jobs big style in the time, but like we can't live without them now. And I see that AI is just going in the same direction. Those who adopt it early and implement it within their business in a way that is fair and explained to the rest of the staff why it's happening, what's happening, then I do believe AI is going to be mainstream and part of life. It already is in the background of certain things, and probably has been for longer than what people think. I mean, I use it on a daily basis. I've used it for helping with spark ideas for LinkedIn posts. I've used it to help me take research that I've pulled together and lay it out in a way that's understandable and helps write a report from the data and understand it a bit better. I've even recently started using it for all I'm a fully fledged graphic designer and have been, let's say, since 1998. I've started using it for design elements. There's one part that when I first started dabbling with the Photoshop AI side of things, I had a photograph, had a personal brand photo session done for me for LinkedIn and things like that. And one of the photos I really liked, but my elbow had been cut off. Historically, I would try to Photoshop that myself, and it might take hours to get the pattern of the shirt right and things like that, and sometimes it may never look 100% real. And the new Adobe AI allowed me just to create that part of the photo within 30 seconds. And it was better than I would have done using Photoshop. I mean, that is a game changer for designers. It just means that they can do things that used to take process and take a long time within seconds. Does it then take away the job of some designers? Those who probably won't adopt it, make it fall by the wayside. But it's the kind of things that I would struggle on with myself rather than outsource, because I think that by the time you outsource it, find some regular person to use, that's the kind of things that AI are going to start helping. But I do believe that there'll be designers out there who solely use AI now, who are on like the freelancer.com and things like that, So for me, yeah, it's there to complement us. It can work with brand strategies as well. I can put in a whole load of research for my customer after doing the deep dive with them, and then ask it to put it out into a report format that can be easily understandable, written in my style because I've trained the program already, such as like say ChatGPT and things like that. So yeah, there's a lot of scaremongering about it from those who I think are worried because they don't want to learn. But then for those who adopt it, I think it's the future. It's going to happen. There's no stopping it.
I think it's quite useful for sometimes mock-ups as well as a design.
Definitely. I mean, the likes of is it Dolly and
Yeah,
things.
yeah,
I had a customer. I'm not an illustrator,
yeah,
and I had a customer recently who needed a set of illustration styles of animals. So I went looking for stock stuff, which is never quite right because it didn't fit her brand. But then I started putting it into the AI systems, and after a bit of teaching of it, it started churning out a unique style that is on brand for this client. Um, they were taking a little bit longer to process because there was a lot of, like I say, prompting involved.
yeah,
But what it's done is it's created 20 illustrations that I would have had to outsource. That would have
yeah,
I would have then had to take what I've learned from my client. I mean, I've created a brief, I could hand that over, but it would have taken time and money that on the tight deadline we had, just it, it opened up a whole new way of doing things for me. And was 100% no. There was a few ones that I couldn't use because I just didn't quite understand. And that's where the human element always comes in. You're never going to AI is never going to fully take over because it needs human empathy. It needs um, understanding of the brand deeper than text. It's actually the empathy side of things and understanding people. Um, so yeah, it's great, but it's always going to need a human there.
and also I think when I looked into it and experimented, I don't really it struggles with like typography, it struggles to generate at the moment.
It does.
Uh,
It's I tried to get an advent calendar esque image the other
yeah,
day, and obviously I wanted the numbers 1 to 24 on
yeah,
there, and it had 6 8s. It had a few weird letters that weren't even, well, they weren't letters or numbers. They were just shapes, really. So it does it. It's still not there. It's still not quite right. It'll come along. Everything does. It's the speed it's coming along is quite scary, but it is a case of adopt it or get left behind. You still there?
yeah. Just
Yep.
so, so what are the main steps you take when creating a brand strategy?
So for me, it's all about understanding the um, the brand's current position,
Yeah,
where they want to get to, who they want to work with. There's a few different things. So there's a kind of a basic 10-point plan I work to. It always evolves depending on the customer and my learnings. I'm a strong believer in continuous learning. But essentially, it's kind of identifying the target audience and what their pain points are, what their behaviors, and what is it you resolve for them and why that is so important to them. It's defining your brand position and vision. So why you are doing what it is, why does it exist beyond making a profit? Um, And that also helps set who they find for staff, align with that purpose and vision. You need to check out the competitors and the competitive landscape. Then it's a case of you've got to look for define your brand positioning. Some people actively go out and their brand position is the cheapest. Some people go out and want to be, say for instance, what's he called, the chef, Tom Kerridge. He's got a fish and chip shop, which I think it's £500 for fish and chips or something, which most people go, that's disgusting, that's terrible. But the positioning he's got is the people who do go in and do pay it value that and are willing to pay it. Whereas most people would be like, "Ooh, £10 expensive for fish and chips." A lot of people do go to him, and that's the people he's targeting by setting his brand position there. And then once you've got your positioning, your vision, purpose, who your tribe is and why, you then start to develop like the kind of tactics behind it. So that's the brand story and the messaging. How can you connect emotionally with the audience? What's the key message points that consistently communicate your core message and across all the platforms? What are those platforms? Then you've got your visual identity, create a brief for that, which is the elements such as the logo, color palette, typography, etc. Your marketing strategy, that should align with the brand strategy. That's determining the channels and the tactics, how you're going to reach them and how you're going to engage them. And then, of course, the main part about all of it is monitor, sort of reflect on what's working, what's not working, and evolve the strategy. Constantly revisit it. It's not you do it once and then let it go. It should be looked at regularly, as regularly as you can, to make sure that you're hitting the targets that you set, and even are the targets still right? Are they still what you want? You need to respond to the market. If your tribe all of a sudden changes for whatever reason, then you need to be able to adapt with them. So for instance, my tribe, freelance graphic designers, they are starting to change because of the onset of AI, because of the amount of people out there who can do a Canva, rather than fully trained graphic designers who've cut their teeth in the industry and know what they're doing. You've got a lot of new people who are coming without any graphic design experience or learning, but they can use Canva and calling themselves graphic designers. And yes, a lot of them will do a good job. But for me, my tribe is changing because there's that many people that they're now competing with. So I've got to get their brand position that they are more than that. So my own strategy has changed in the last 6 months quite a bit. So it's always monitor and evolve it.
Got some tips for students doing design who are looking to become a brand strategist?
I would say, firstly, understand that brand strategy is beyond design. You want to start getting familiar with marketing, psychology, business. Those three things are more brand strategy than design. Like, design should always solve a problem, but brand strategy is working out what that problem is first, so then you can react with the design and all the other elements from marketing as well. Then I think practice critical thinking and problem solving. So actually, there's a load of books out there on how to do that, and it's there's loads of different methods. Instead of just going in and being logical about it, there's different ways of looking at different industries to see how they resolve a problem, and seeing if that can be used in your industry. So always having there's a better way of doing this. What is it? Why is it? Problem solving kind of mentality. And then the other one, look at other people. Observe those who are doing great jobs. So learning from real world examples, for instance, is the best way. Look at the brands that are really that resonate with you, but rather than just saying like, look, I like this, why? It's kind of really digging deep into, right, what is it about me that is attracted to that brand? Why am I happy to spend X amount on this brand but not that brand? What is it they're doing? And then if you start looking at their marketing, their messaging, find out what their mission statements and purpose and values are, and find out, actually, is that what I'm buying into, or is it the products? Because it's very rarely the product itself. It's normally because of everything that's gone before it within the strategy. I think that's probably the three main areas to start to get into, and keep learning. Read a lot. I again put myself through a lot of online courses. I did some actual physical courses, like for proper qualifications. Don't just box yourself in as being a designer. Try to get more. Try to and get like you're doing. Do some free work so you can actually learn, and ask people, is it okay if I do this for free, on the basis that at the end you give me a testimonial, or I can ask a few questions about your brand to get to understand it, so you can learn on the job kind of thing.
I think one sort of popular brand strategist is Kris, you know, he uses like LinkedIn a lot and puts about strategy.
Yeah, I mean, LinkedIn is a great place. Start following some of the big hitters out there. Ash Rath, he's great. Richard Moore. There was another guy whose name's gone at the moment. But these guys are amazing, you know. They look at what they're doing, look at what they're saying. Just trying to find Kris. He's one of my heroes. I really rate him. He's got the Future podcast. Listen to that, because he's got different specialists in different industries and kind of marketeers, strategists, web developers, designers. So the Future podcast is a really good one to listen to, because he does get a lot of the big hitters on LinkedIn on his show as well.
So, what are common mistakes that you find that people make when creating a brand strategy?
So the main one is not understanding what a brand strategy is over what a brand identity is. I would say that a lot of designers, especially in the early years, again, I was guilty of doing this hugely, was focusing too much on aesthetics without considering strategy. And the strategic parts they are doing is speaking to the client and trying to design for the client, not for the client's customers. Because what you're trying to do is resolve their problem. If you can solve your client's problem, that will solve your client's problem, which is they need more clients normally, or business coming through. So like, you can create beautiful design, but if it doesn't align with the brand's core value and the audience needs, you can miss the mark completely. And again, whilst having something that looks great, if it doesn't actually do what it's set out to do, attract the right audience, get people to get in touch and engage with the brand, then I think design without purpose is art. It's there to be admired, that's all. All design should be purpose built and should be done in a way that gets somebody to do something, whether it's click on a link, whether it's to go, ooh, I like that brand. What you're trying to do is it evokes some kind of reaction with design. And I think thinking beyond the visual and thinking, right, what is it we want to do with this design is what a lot of people don't think about. So that's it. Like really think about why everything's happening rather than just going in and doing something because it looks lovely.
I think that's what possibly why I quite like design these days. I think kind of transferred from doing art now doing design was having sort of the thought behind your design and why you do something.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I did art in college. I've always painted, draw, um, any kind of creative field I enjoyed doing. But it wasn't until I always did art for me. It's what I like to do. I didn't do it for anybody else. It didn't necessarily show many people. It was because it was a pastime that took my mind off things and just I really enjoyed doing. When I then started looking into design, it was kind of actually there's a bit more structure here. There's a purpose behind it. I can show other people because you have to show other people because that you're not doing it for yourself, you're designing it for others. And when a piece of art is so subjective that it's kind of, oh yes, I like this, or I don't like this. Why? It's just not what I like. Whereas design is measurable. It either works or it doesn't. And it's, yes, sometimes it can be subjective where people go, oh yeah, I like that, I don't like that. But you can not like it, but still know to click on that web link. You can still like it, but go, oh well, you not like it, but still know it was that brand. And that might be a good thing because you might want to put people off because they're not your target audience in your design. So like, that's what I really like about it. It's, there's a reason it works or not, and it can be measured. And everything we do in strategy is measurable, you know. So it's it was one of the great parts I liked right at the start when I went into design from a more art background was you can measure whether it's right or wrong. It's not down to people's opinion.
I think probably start looking into strategy more now. Have some more knowledge on it also.
Sorry, what was that one?
That's saying I'll probably look at sort of strategy more in my work and try and look at how I do it and how I can use it for my own sort of brand that I created. And
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Like, look at a lot of people want to just, like I say, be everything to everybody.
yeah,
So they're not bothered who their customer is. Um, but once you start actually niching down a little bit and find out who you enjoy working with, because that's the main thing. If you enjoy working with a certain kind of people, then that's who you target. You will pick up, like I target freelance graphic designers who are earning less than £30,000 a year, who feel that they are tagged as just a designer. Because I've niched that down quite a bit, and normally it's people under 30 years old as well. Everything I do is I put out for my marketing and my messaging is to attract those kind of people. But what's amazing is I then I've also picked up personal trainers who I've helped with their brands. I've helped big corporations from, I say, the carbon calculator kind of companies who want to reduce CO2 and output by their clients, through to other marketing agencies sometimes draft me in to help them out. So it's kind of, for all I target a specific audience who I like working with and want to work with, and that's who I feel I help the most, I do pick up other work from it, and it's a case of, by putting the strategy in yourself, you'll then be able to understand who you want to help, and because they're your tribe, you know how to help them because they are you, essentially. They're people like you. Like I say, most of my customers are like for like me 10 to 15 years ago. I was on a discovery call the other day with one lady who, it was uncanny, our similarities of where we were living at the time, what we're doing, what we wanted from life. And it was kind of, well, yeah, I can definitely help you because I've actually done this before with myself.
Yeah.
So by all means, Stephen, like, if you're doing it, learn the brand strategy side, apply it to yourself first,
Yeah.
and then you'll be able to apply it to your customers.
Yeah. Yes. What is one actionable step that the designer or student can do to improve their knowledge on brand strategy?
For me, the one thing you must do is read. I mean, I've got a library full of psychology books. So that's buying psychology. I've got business books, which was more of a recent thing. Beforehand, I was kind of just read brand strategy books, obviously, but it was when I started reading, like, say, psychology and business, and then the brand strategy on top of that books, which, all because everybody's got different. There's a lot of similarities throughout a lot of them, but everybody's got a different approach to it and a different way of looking at it. Marty Neumeyer has a great range of books. I think Zig or Zag. I think he's got both of those, which really look into how you can differentiate yourself, and who your audience is and things like that. And it's really interesting books. There's several out there which I think which was a great transition for me. I can't remember the name of them, but I'll certainly be able to send you them over. Was the design response to strategy, and that was a great one because it was like, right, well, how does a designer understand strategy and then respond to it in a style that resonates with the client. So that was quite a good one. But yeah, read, learn as much as you can, or watch YouTube videos, podcasts. I guess maybe not read, is learn, continuous learning. That's it. It takes nothing but your time, and to do there's so many free resources out there, but there are a lot of great books as well.
Yeah. I think one I started looking at, I think, was brand strategy and competitive positioning, was one like ebook.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, things like that. Like, normally I go through fits and starts between reading business and marketing books and then reading for fun kind of thing when I need to decompress a little bit. But yeah, there's a few great ones out there. I mean, one of the great inspirational ones about building a brand is Shoe Dog, the Nike founder. That is a great book. I've read it several times now, and it just shows you what you can do with very little. And I mean, look at Nike; it's one of the biggest brands in the world now. It trampled when it comes to competitiveness. Its competitors, Adidas and everybody else, kind of always lag behind. But for a long time, that wasn't the case. When they first started, they were the underdog, but that's their winning point, and that's what you learn about them. And I think Nike's one of my favorite brands, but it's more because of they back the underdogs. They didn't come with millions to start with. They just mucked in and did what they could with what they could. And it's a case of like I say, that book's worth reading, even as just a book to enjoy. But from that, then start getting into a bit more tactical books as well.
I think I quite like Nick as well, so that was one of the books that I was looking at maybe buying at some point. 'Cause
Definitely, it's worth it. Like I say, I've read it several times now, and every time it's just inspirational. It is.
one I've recently got was 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 a book on Virgil Abloh's Nike collection where it goes on about how he designed the 10 pairs for Off-White, and that's like
Yeah, all right. Sounds good. I've not seen that one, but I'll certainly look into it. That's I always remember is when I was in sixth form. In fact, it may have even been GCSE art. I think it was. It was my GCSEs. The school library had a, a kind of coffee table book, which was of Absolute vodka and all of their adverts. And it was all the adverts from probably the 90s, I would imagine. And they were so simple, but so brand iconic, and they still haven't changed to this day, and they still do the very similar design format. And I would look at that and I'd look at it and I'd be like, oh, this was before I knew I was going to be a graphic designer. It was new before kind of anything like that. I was 16 years old. But I knew there was something about this brand and how they were getting it. I didn't drink vodka, I didn't do anything, but I just loved their brand and their visual aspect. And I think it's every so often you come across things like that, which just makes you start to think, why do I like this? What is it they're doing? Rather than just accepting you like it. And I think that's again the Shoe Dog book makes you think more about the brand strategy behind it rather than just the swoosh, the just do it, the visible things.
that's everything. Anyways, thank you for your time. It's quite
No problem at
insightful.
all. I'm glad I helped. And like I say, if there's any other questions you've got, always just reach out.